I'm Leona Mercer, 34, a molecular biologist who spends most days in a sterile lab lit by fluorescent light and the quiet hum of centrifuges. I'm good with equations, terrible with birthdays. Still, tonight I'm driving through February rain, the kind that blurs the city into silver streaks, clutching a bottle of Pinot Noir that cost more than my shoes. It's my sister Melissa's 40th, and after months of tense silence, I've convinced myself that showing up might fix something. Her house glows on a cul-de-sac north of Seattle, big windows, warm light, laughter spilling into the night. I pause at the door, breathe once, and step inside. The smell of roast chicken and vanilla candles hits me, along with a dozen voices. Everyone's already seated: our parents, Melissa's in-laws, co-workers from her dealership. The table gleams with gold-rimmed plates and place cards written in her tidy handwriting. Every seat is taken. Leona Melissa's smile freezes for half a second. You made it. I must have miscounted. She gestures vaguely toward the kitchen. There's a folding chair by the laundry room. Grab that one. The room goes strangely quiet, forks pausing mid-air. My mother adjusts her napkin. My father clears his throat. No one looks directly at me. I stand there, rain still damp on my hair, clutching the bottle like proof that I belong. Then I see it, the last empty space at the counter, already stacked with serving dishes. Not even room for a plate. It's fine, I say, setting the wine down beside the sink. My voice sounds steadier than I feel. Happy birthday, Mel. Before she can reply, I turn, step back into the cold air, and let the door shut behind me. The rain has stopped, but everything still feels wet. By the time I pull into my apartment lot, the streetlights along Lake Union have turned the water into a sheet of trembling gold. My shoes leave wet marks on the hallway carpet as I climb the stairs. Inside, the silence is thick, the kind that feels like it's waiting for an apology that never comes. I drop my keys, peel off my damp coat, and order a pizza without even checking the menu: pepperoni and mushrooms. The usual when I'm too tired to pretend I want anything else. While I wait, I scroll through old birthday photos stored on my phone. Melissa in a pink paper crown at 12. Our parents smiling in matching sweaters. And me always behind the camera, the one capturing other people's happiness, never in the frame. The delivery driver arrives 15 minutes later, a kid with earbuds and a polite nod. I set the box on the coffee table, grab a paper towel instead of a plate, and sink into the couch. The smell of melted cheese fills the room. I'm halfway through my first bite when my phone vibrates. Arun Patel, my colleague, the steady counterweight to my overthinking. Turn on Channel 5, his text says. I fumble for the remote. The screen flickers to a local news anchor standing before a photo of my lab team. Seattle researchers report a major breakthrough in treating pediatric neurodegenerative disorders, she says. Dr. Leona Mercer and her colleagues at Northbridge Biotech have received preliminary NIH approval to expand their clinical trials. My face appears at a podium, speaking about gene therapy, my voice calm and certain in a way I don't feel tonight. The camera cuts back to the anchor, smiling, a promising step forward for families affected by Ellis-Barton syndrome. I stare at the screen, a bite of pizza cooling in my hand. Outside, the city glows with reflections of windows and water. Somewhere across town, Melissa is blowing out candles, and here, in the quiet, strangers are learning my name for the first time. By morning, the story has spread beyond Channel 5. My inbox is a stream of subject lines. Incredible work. Dr. Mercer. Congratulations from the NIH liaison team. Patient advocacy group requests interview. Overnight, the quiet project I've lived inside for 5 years has become headline material. The NIH's official email sits at the top. Formal and thrilling, your gene therapy trial for Ellis-Barton syndrome has been designated for fast-track review. I read it 3 times just to feel the words settle. Every data point, every sleepless night in the lab, suddenly it all counts for something tangible. Arun calls while I'm still staring at the screen. You realize what this means? Right. It moves us ahead almost 2 years. Kids could get treatment within 18 months instead of 4. His voice trembles with excitement, but mine doesn't match it. Yeah, I say softly. I realize. He hesitates. You okay? I'm processing. After the call. I sit by the window with coffee gone cold, watching the gray water shift against the docks. Across the glass, a seagull drags a French fry from a takeout bag, scraps, leftovers. I think of last night's pizza crust still in the box. My phone buzzes again, messages from colleagues. A neurologist in Boston, a foundation rep offering to connect with families. The flood of gratitude should feel like arrival, but all I can sense is the echo where family pride should be. Finally, I forward one of the news articles to my parents, adding a simple note. Thought you'd want to see this. An hour passes before my mother replies. So proud. Melissa's party went great. Everyone had such a nice time. That's it. No mention of the research, the trials, or the children whose names have filled my notebooks for years. Just small talk wrapped in polite punctuation. I stare at her message until the words blur. Validation glows from every corner of the professional world, yet the one place I've always wanted it remains dim. Recognition is everywhere and nowhere it truly matters. That night, the glow of my laptop feels almost too bright for the small apartment. My inbox keeps refreshing faster than I can read. Every new subject line carries a pulse. Thank you. Hope it lasts. From a parent in Denver. From a patient in Toronto. I start opening them one by one. A father writes, You gave my daughter her first real hope. She's 8. She's lost most of her vision. But tonight, she asked me if she could learn to ride a bike when she gets better. I didn't have the heart to tell her no. My throat tightens. I read it twice, tracing the line about the bike like it's a prayer. Another message, from a teenage girl, Dr. Mercer. I have Ellis Barton. Most people think my life is just waiting to get worse. But after seeing you on the news, I want to study science. I want to be like you. I press my hands over my eyes, the kind of crying that sneaks up from gratitude, not grief, shakes through me. Years of failed trials, rejected grants, quiet labs, they all collapse into this single thread of connection between my work and a stranger's hope. Between messages. I glance at the comments under the local news clip. Most are kind. Some add little heart emojis or tags to relatives. But then one line stands out, bet this miracle costs a fortune. I hover over the reply box. My fingers start typing before my brain catches up an explanation about public funding, insurance frameworks, equitable access for rare disease treatments. It's calm, factual, correct. Then I stop. My cursor blinks like a dare. What would it change? I highlight the whole paragraph and hit delete. The science will speak for itself. The pizza box from last night still sits on the counter, half open. I fold it shut, toss it into the bin, and wipe the crumbs away with one hand. The messages keep coming, soft chimes cutting through the quiet. I let them fill the room. For the first time in days, the silence feels less like emptiness and more like peace waiting to be understood. The sun hasn't risen yet when the first call comes in. My phone vibrates against the nightstand, dragging me out of a shallow sleep. I squint at the screen, unknown number New York. For a second, I think it's spam, but then I hear a woman's voice, polished and hurried. Dr. Mercer. This is Carla Jensen from CNN. We'd like to feature your research on our Monday morning segment. The NIH press office just confirmed you're leading the fast-track trial, correct? I sit up, rubbing my eyes. That's right. Perfect. Our producer will email you logistics. Congratulations. Doctor. She hangs up before I can thank her. A soft glow edges through the blinds. The world outside is still gray. Seattle quiet. But inside, my phone won't stop buzzing. Emails from NIH contacts, requests for interviews, a message from a medical journal editor asking for a statement, then a text from Aaron pops up. They want you live on CNN Monday. National exposure. You ready? I smile at the screen, half in disbelief. Ready enough, I type back. In the bathroom mirror, I barely recognize myself. Hair knotted, dark circles under my eyes. Yesterday's mascara still faintly there. I splash cold water on my face, trying to chase away the blur of exhaustion and adrenaline. This is what every scientist dreams of: recognition, momentum, funding, and yet it feels distant, like I'm watching it happen to someone else. The phone buzzes again. I glance down, expecting another work alert. Instead, it's a message from the family group chat. A single photo fills the screen, Melissa leaning over her birthday cake, the candles mid-flicker. Everyone smiling around her. Mom has written the caption, "Such a perfect birthday." Dozens of heart emojis follow from cousins and aunts. Not a single mention of the news that could change lives. Not even a congrats. Leo, from anyone in the photo. The silence feels heavier than any lab failure I've ever faced. I set the phone face down on the counter, my reflection faint in the glass behind it. My voice comes out low, almost a whisper. My phone is loud, I say. Their silence is louder. Sunday morning, the air in my apartment smells faintly of stale coffee and victory. The CNN segment runs at 7 a.m., my face framed by the words, "Scientific Breakthrough in Pediatric Gene Therapy." I watch from the couch in my pajamas, knees pulled up under a blanket, heart hammering as the anchor says my name. They show footage of our lab, the rows of freezers, the tiny vials labeled with patient IDs. My voice, calm and professional, explains the treatment's promise: hope for children who once had none. I try to imagine my parents watching from their living room in Spokane, the morning light hitting their kitchen table. But when the segment ends, the phone stays still. No call, no text, just the low hum of the fridge. By noon, the world has seen it. My inbox fills again, along with a handful of social media comments, most kind, a few venomous. One catches my eye, probably faking data for grant money. Another overhyped scientist. My stomach twists. I know better than to read them, but I do anyway. The words sink deep, settling somewhere between fatigue and disbelief. Then another notification appears, an email from an address I don't recognize. Dr. Mercer. It begins. I've been a pediatric nurse for 25 years. I've held too many children who didn't make it. Today, for the first time, I cried happy tears. Thank you for reminding me why this work matters. I press a hand to my chest and let the air out slowly. One kind sentence from a stranger, and the noise fades. Evening falls before my phone rings again. My mother's name flashes on the screen. I answer before I can think. "Leona, honey," she starts, voice careful. "Melissa didn't mean to hurt you the other night. Don't be dramatic, it was just a birthday." I close my eyes, steadying my tone. And I was just saving children's lives. There's a long pause, her silence loud enough to fill the room. I don't add anything else. Some truths don't need to be softened to sound human. The next afternoon, I'm organizing notes for a conference call when my phone lights up with my father's name. I hesitate. He rarely calls. Usually it's Mom who speaks for both of them. "Hi, Dad," I answer carefully. For a moment, all I hear is his breathing, slow and uneven. Then he says, "I saw your interview, the one on CNN." His voice cracks on the last word. "I never understood your world. Leona, all those years you spent buried in research. I thought you were hiding from us. So I pretended it didn't matter. I was wrong." I press a hand over my mouth. He taught chemistry for 30 years. Coaxing bored high schoolers through formulas I could recite before I turned 12. I used to think he'd be proud that I followed the same path, just deeper, further. But maybe that made it harder for him to look. "I'm glad you watched." I whisper. "I'm proud of you," he says simply. "You're doing what I only dreamed my students might someday do." The words loosen something inside me. I start crying, not from relief, but from exhaustion. The kind that builds when you've held yourself upright for too long. He doesn't fill the silence, just lets me breathe. 2 days later, Melissa texts coffee, just us. We meet at a small cafe near Pike Place, the kind with mismatched chairs and the smell of cinnamon in everything. She looks nervous, hands wrapped around her cup. I've been thinking, she begins, about that night, about everything. I wait. When Mom and Dad called me the normal one, I thought it meant I had to stay perfect. But every time you accomplished something big, I felt smaller. I guess I let that turn into jealousy. Her eyes shine. Not performative this time. You didn't deserve how I treated you. I nod, unsure how to answer. Forgiveness isn't a switch, it's a process. I appreciate you saying that. I manage. But I need time. I get it, she says softly. Just thank you for listening. We sit in quiet companionship, the first without pretense in years, steam rising from our cups like fragile truces in the air. A month later, an envelope arrives in my mailbox, cream-colored, heavy paper, my name written in Melissa's neat handwriting. Inside is an invitation to a charity dinner at the Hyatt Ballroom. The note tucked behind it reads, "For the Children's Hospital Research Fund. Head of the table's yours." When I walk in that evening, the lights are warm, the air humming with quiet conversation and the clinking of glassware. Melissa spots me from across the room. She looks different, less polished, more human. There's a nervous smile on her face that I don't remember ever seeing. "Leona," she says, stepping forward. "I'm so glad you came." The table near the stage is long and draped in white linen. A small card rests at the center plate, Dr. Leona Mercer. For a second, I just stare at it. My name, printed clearly. No seat forgotten. Dinner moves smoothly salmon, asparagus, polite laughter. When it's time for speeches, Melissa takes the microphone. Her voice trembles slightly. "I used to think success was about sales goals and promotions," she begins. "But tonight, it's about something far bigger. My sister, Dr. Leona Mercer, and her team are changing lives for children who might not have had a future. I'm proud to pledge 10% of my dealership's spring profits to the research fund supporting their work." The applause feels soft but genuine. I feel my cheeks warm, not from spotlight pride, but from something gentler recognition that isn't a weapon anymore. Melissa meets my eyes as she steps down from the stage. For once, she doesn't look like she's performing. She just looks like my sister. As dessert arrives, I exhale slowly, the tension in my chest easing. Maybe this is forgiveness. Maybe it's just the tired kind of peace that comes after a long, hard climb. Either way, it feels real enough to stay. Dessert arrives in little white ramekins creme brulee. The sugar cracked just right. Conversations soften, the kind of quiet that follows speeches and sincerity. Melissa leans back in her chair, smiling in that unguarded way I haven't seen since we were kids. Her daughter, Chloe, slips away from her seat and clambers onto my lap without asking. Her hair smells like strawberries and the faint powder from the cookie she's just eaten. "Aunt Leo," she says, her voice small but certain. "Mommy says you help sick kids get better. Can you teach me science?" The question hits harder than any award could. I blink fast, but tears still find their way. "Absolutely," I tell her. "But only if you promise to make a lot of mistakes along the way." She grins. "Deal." Melissa watches from across the table, eyes glistening. She mouths a quiet, "Thank you." I nod, unable to speak. For the rest of the evening, I let Chloe draw atoms on my napkin with a pen from my bag circles. Lines, messy handwriting that looks like hope in motion. Around us, the hum of conversation blends with the faint sound of rain beginning outside. When the dinner ends, I hug my parents goodbye. My father squeezes my shoulder longer than usual, and my mother whispers, "You looked so at ease up there." I believe she means it. Outside, the drizzle coats the city in silver. I walk to my car slowly, the sound of water tapping against the pavement steady as a heartbeat. For once, I don't feel caught between who I am and who they need me to be. Tonight, I'm part of something family, Science. Maybe both, and still entirely my own. Back home, the apartment feels quieter than usual, but not empty. I hang my coat, slip off my heels, and notice the faint hum of the fridge, the same sound that filled the room the night everything began. On the counter sits the old pizza box I never threw away, a forgotten relic of that birthday evening. I open it. The slice inside is cold, stiff around the edges, but the smell brings back every detail: the rain, the sting of being unwanted, the silence that followed. I take a bite anyway. It tastes like the start of something I didn't know I was building. At my desk, the lamp casts a circle of light over a blank grant form. I begin typing a new proposal, not about recognition or awards, but access. Funding for treatment programs in smaller hospitals. Support for families who can't afford travel or trials. If the science has opened doors, then it's time to hold them open for others. Half an hour later, I close my laptop and stretch, exhaustion settling in like a soft blanket. My phone buzzes on the desk, an email from Aaron, time-stamped just past midnight. Trial recruitment full. First child begins treatment Monday. I read it twice. A slow smile rises before I can stop it. Outside, the lights across Lake Union ripple against the dark water, steady and alive. I think about that first night, sitting here alone with my pizza, feeling invisible. Now, somewhere out there, a child might wake up to a world with a future because of that same night. I whisper to the empty room. That's the only seat I ever needed, and this time, the silence feels like belonging.